Jimmy Carter's still dead.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Is that a newsflash?
There was a Twitter handle that was, did Jimmy Carter die today? It was at Did Jimmy Carter die today? And
Seriously?
Yes. And every day they would post, nope. Just every day. Somebody would log in. Did Jimmy Carter die today? And they would post, nope.
And people followed this?
Oh, yeah, of course. It's the internet.
Wow.
So yesterday they logged in. They posted, nope. And then the comments followed a few hours later. They said, you sure? And they had to reply to their own. They use an expletive. Well, it was the day. Jimmy Carter passing away at 100 years old. More than half the country does not know Jimmy Carter pretty much at all other than his time doing charitable work. In our case, both Pamela and I discussed that we don't remember his presidency. We were too young. We remember Reagan as the first president. When the average age of Americans is about 38, 39 years old, most of the country wasn't born when Jimmy Carter was still president. In fact, make you feel old, most of the country wasn't born when Reagan was in his first term. Yep. Starting to hurt, isn't it?
Can you just stop?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Hurts. So they really don't know Jimmy Carter as anything other than a paragraph in a history book and maybe what they saw him doing with Habitat for Humanity, which I think is really interesting. It is what it is, right? It is life. But what I find fascinating about Jimmy Carter is that he could be inspirational in a way that many can't. And I'll give an example. Pamela, you talked about you grew up in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. You go to ASU. Did you ever work any small market radio jobs?
Oh, yeah.
You did. Okay, you did some of that.
Sparta, Wisconsin.
Sparta's a great town.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a tiny town. My first radio gig was in a tiny town. And I went from there to doing a very small satellite network. And from there, I went to another slightly larger small town. And then I started getting some breaks along the way. But I sort of climbed up. Jimmy Carter comes from a town small. My hometown was 1,200 people. Jimmy Carter came from a town that was 600. It has fewer than 600 people today, and they just lost one, right? So to me, it was a bit aspirational to see that somebody could come from a very, very small farming community and become the most powerful man on the planet. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's saying something. Look, hey, kids we work with nowadays, these kids, they grow up and they just think they should work in the major markets. They're all looking at me through the window and they're making me look
smiling
like an old man.
At you going, yeah.
Brooke Simpson was on with Arizona's Morning News this morning talking with Jamie, and I think our news director Bill was in for Jim today. And he talked about the humble beginnings of Jimmy Carter.
Yes, it certainly was. To say, son of a farmer in Georgia, gone to the Naval Academy and served in military service, returned home in the 1950s after the death of his father to manage the family business. And from there on in, started to get his toe into politics. And that was the beginning of an interesting story.
Yeah, and of course, the family business was peanut farming.
That's where what do you call him, President Peanut?
I call him President Peanut, yeah. But his campaign plan was Peanut One. I think it's great. You know, when he was in the Navy, he became the only president to spend time inside a melting down nuclear reactor. Who knew? He spent a minute and a half inside a nuclear reactor that was melting down. Ontario, Canada had a reactor that exploded in 1952. Now, Carter was a smart guy. Here he is in his late 20s. He's a lieutenant. He helped develop the first nuclear submarine because he's that old. So they said, Carter, we need you to go to Canada and help them with this nuclear meltdown. So he goes into the reactor. He's in full protective gear. He's got two other specialists. He's in there. I mean, we're talking full Fukushima here. 89 seconds, roughly a minute and a half.
Jeez.
That's about, and he absorbed about the same amount of radiation that you and I would take in one full year based on what's just in the atmosphere from the sun. He later said that his urine continued to test positive for radioactivity for 6 months, which not only is amazing, but also made me wonder, who keeps a Geiger counter in the bathroom?
And how do we know that?
Right?
But
That's a little weird.
You have to imagine that military experience in the Navy that had to prepare him for his time in politics.
Of course. And also as the commander in chief, probably when it comes to the organizational kind of stuff, right? And is it possible that spending 90 seconds in a nuclear reactor when you're 28 maybe helped when he had to deal with cancer later on. I mean, I'm not an oncologist, but I'm not saying it didn't help. Just throwing it out there. I'm only asking the questions.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.